Za prolaznike ovog kvarta u zapadnom Londonu, on je neprimetan. Samo još jedan promrzli sugrađanin koji se žurno probija kroz upornu kišu. Za one koji malo bolje zagledaju ispod kišobrana, prepoznaće Erika Whitacrea.
Hello, Eric. Hi.
It's great to meet you.
Great to meet you as well. Please, step in.
Thank you.
Kompozitora i dirigenta, ili kako ga neki opisuju trenutno najveće zvezde klasične muzike, ujedno i jednog od najizvođenijih autora svoje generacije. Sada spisku može da doda i epitet pionira. Prvog marta je ušao u istoriju kao prvi dirigent koji u realnom vremenu simultano dirigovao horom od 100 ljudi na sceni TED konferenciju u Los Angelesu i 36 pevača ispred Skype kamere iz čitavog sveta, uključujući one iz Srbije, Hrvatske i Slovenije. Projekat Virtuelni hor mu je doneo globalnu popularnost. Ali ovom momku iz Rina u Nevadi, važnije od toga je kako je iskoristiti za dobro.
Eric Whitacre, welcome to Al Jazeera.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're referred to as one of the most respected and most appreciated artists of today when it comes to classical music. And I'm thinking that's a quite heavy burden to take. So how does one get used to the notion of being a beloved composer?
I mean, I still have a hard time believing it, frankly. Partly because it's a very odd profession, you know, that as public as it all seems with the internet and with the media, the truth is most of my day is spent sitting alone in a room with a piece of paper and a pencil. Do you know what I mean? So it's odd to feel these ripples when I'm living such a small, solitary life.
You're an artist first, and all the artists want the attention and even adoration of the public. So in a sense, it's good that you have such a good feedback from the public. On some level, when does the ego steps in and when does the ego steps out of the equation?
Well, anytime my ego starts to step in, my wife takes care of that. So, but then also I'm very lucky, I think, in that because I'm in this tradition of classical music, there's not really room for me to have any ego. Because the second I would feel my head getting bigger, there's Bach, there's Beethoven, there's Mozart, there's Stravinsky, there's Debussy, Prokofiev, giants, greater composers than I could possibly ever hope to be. So it's very easy to stay humble.
You're one of those guys that got a chance to be in Juilliard. So you're classically trained in a sense that you know those guys from the heart, in a sense. So take us back through your university years. How was it for you?
For all of Juilliard, I remember not sleeping for 2 full years. I remember being surrounded by some of the best musicians I've ever seen, still have ever seen, these young geniuses everywhere. I remember being excited all the time. Every day was some new, incredible discovery. And I was living in New York, which is one of my favorite cities in the world. So I remember it only fondly.
When you come to a place like that, it has to be daunting, simply because you think, I love music. How do you cross over from loving something that much and being good at it?
Yeah, and I should say when I first arrived at Juilliard, I had my first teacher and we didn't get along so well. And he spent a lot of time telling me everything that I was doing wrong. And at first it really paralyzed me because I came to classical music late anyway. I didn't read music until I was 18, 19 years old. And so I think for the first 6 months I believed it a little bit. It really knocked me back. And then I found my inner voice again and then came back up. So it was daunting in that respect, but it was good. In retrospect, it was good to sort of steel myself.
When did you realize that composing is something that you truly love?
Well, even when I was in high school, 14 or 15 years old, I thought that I wanted to be a rock star. So that's all I imagined doing. And I got fired from every possible job I could have. I delivered pizzas, I worked at a copy center, I worked at a grocery store. Everything fell apart. Even after I went to Juilliard, I tried teaching for a semester. I thought maybe I'll have a real job and I'll teach students. And the entire time, my heart was just longing to compose. It's what I wanted to do more than anything. And that's when I finally realized, I was 27 years old, when I finally realized I have to figure out a way to make this work. Otherwise, my soul will die.
We live in a society where you're encouraged to start so early on. And I'm not just referring to the music. Given any field, unless you start doing something when you're 4 or 5, you almost have a feeling that you're not going to succeed. And taking from you, do you think you got there in time? And was there ever anxiousness about, I need to figure it out? Or did you feel free to explore?
That's a good question. I think I've always felt a sense of freedom. I've always felt a sense of what is it that I love, and that what do I want to do, and that I've let my heart follow me. And throughout my life, that has proved time and time again to be the right way to go. I don't believe for a second that you can start too late in life, or that you could be 40 years old and try something new and completely change careers. You could be the greatest in it. So for me, it's wide open. Anything is possible.
So when you come to a point when you collect a Grammy, you get the respect from your peers. Does the part of you, that boy from Juilliard, did you ever wish to go back to school? Step into that classroom when you got so many criticism and say, look at me now? No. I understand the instinct, some sort of validation, and to come back and say, but no, the truth is now I can look back in retrospect and I can say, first of all, some of the teachers who, and even from an early age, I'm sure everyone has experienced this, people who just didn't believe in what I was doing or didn't believe in me. I can see them now that I'm an adult. I can see they were just adults. Even though they were in a position of being teachers, they're just flawed human beings, like everyone else. So I have great sympathy for them. And also, when I look back, I think I'm actually grateful to them for making me stronger. For every one of the teachers that didn't believe, and there weren't that many, but everyone that didn't believe, I think made me believe stronger. So how does somebody go from wishing to be a rock star to being a classical star?
Yeah.
How does that work?
It went the wrong way, didn't it? I should have started as wanting to be a classical musician and then falling into rock. I love rock and pop music. I still love it. I still dream of the day that Depeche Mode calls me up and asks me to carry their suitcases. But when I first sang in a choir when I was 18 years old, it was this other world that was open to me. I didn't know that there was the possibility for such beautiful, elegant, sophisticated music that just touched me. It makes me shiver, makes me tremble. And so it's like a calling, a vocation. It was like the light was switched on and I didn't have a choice.
But the core reason why I wanted to join the choir was the girls, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've always found that to be that's a good driving principle for anything. I started choir at 18 because a friend of mine told me that that there were a lot of cute girls in the soprano section, and that we were taking this trip to Mexico at the end of the year. So I thought that was a good deal. The girls and Mexico, that I could do just about anything for that.
How strong do you remember experience of being overwhelmed by a choir? How did you feel in that exact moment? Explain that to us.
I sat down in the choir, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't read music, and so I was looking over the shoulder at the guy sitting next to me, and I turned to the Kyrie in this piece called the Requiem by Mozart. And the conductor gave the downbeat, and all of the basses start to sing, and I'm just trying to follow along, and then suddenly I hear the altos come in, and then the tenors, and then the sopranos, and this counterpoint is swirling around me in 3 dimensions. And at first I started giggling, kind of laughing to myself because it was just tickling, physically tickling me. And then I started trembling, and then I started weeping. It was as if someone were saying my true name. Not my name, Eric Whitacre, but my true name, just reaching right in, and it was electrifying. And in that single rehearsal, I came out totally transformed. I was a different person when I came out.
So is that the reason why I decided to focus on composing a scores for the choir, so you can revisit that moment over and over again?
Yes, I think that's part of it. The other part is, I find the aesthetic and the poetry of the human voice and people singing together the most beautiful thing there is. People at the same time breathing in, making sound at the same time with a single intention, only for the purpose of making something beautiful. It's the lifestyle I think I would choose even if I weren't a musician.
So at what point did you feel confident enough and said to yourself, yes, I can do this, I can compose this?
So this is the funny thing. When I first began composing, I was so naive, so innocent, that it never occurred to me that I didn't know what I was doing. I look back at my early pieces and I broke every rule there is to break. Some things are badly written, some things are inventive because I didn't know. It never even occurred to me that I shouldn't or couldn't be doing it. And frankly, it wasn't until after I'd finished my school at Juilliard, after I had a master's degree, that for the first time I started looking and thinking, oh God, I don't know if I'm very good at this. Do you know what I mean? So it was nice because in those first years, I was just dumb. And it was a good strength.
You mentioned all these great composers, truly great. But I'm just wondering, is there anything else left to reinvent, invent, or has everything been pretty much done in terms of classical music for the choirs?
I don't know. I don't know if there's... In some ways, I can look at, say, what Bach or what Mozart did and say it simply can't be improved upon. It's perfect. It's perfect. But then, in our time, I think it's possible then to aspire to make perfect music for our time. Things are slightly different. The world's a little faster, the colors, the sounds. Small things are different than they would have been in their time, and so the perfect music for this time might be a little different than what they were doing. So I think there's still things to be said, if only because they're being said right now.
Is that the reason why you so passionate about virtual choir? Because that's maybe your version of reinventing the genre?
Yeah, although I have to say with virtual choir, I never think of it as reinvention or even anything groundbreaking. It seems to me so obvious, if you will. With the tools that the internet supplies, with the way that we can connect with people, it doesn't seem really innovative at all. It just seems like this is what we ought to be doing with this technology.
So how did virtual choir come about?
So this young woman named Britlin Losi posted a video to YouTube, a fan video to me, and you can see it, and she's saying, "Hi, Mr. Whitacre, I'm a big fan, and I wanted to make this video for you." And she sang the soprano part to a piece that I'd written called Sleep. And the video was just so striking and lovely. And I was drawn into her world. I could see the piano behind her, and it was very intimate. But while listening to her, it occurred to me if I could somehow get other people around the world to do exactly what she's doing, so sing their part, if they're the soprano or the alto or the tenor or the bass, and as long as they were all singing at the same tempo, the same pace, and they were singing in the same key, if we started all their videos at the same time, it would have to work like a choir, right? It's all these people starting and stopping at the same time. You'd have to make a virtual choir. And we tried it, and it worked out better than I could have imagined.
It seems to me that the live choir has now taken the life of its own.
Yeah, this was the crazy part. So I didn't know how to get everyone to sing in the same tempo. So I had this idea that I would upload a video of myself conducting, and then when I made that video, there was no sound at all in the room. It was completely silent because I was only imagining the music that would eventually happen when they started to sing. They sent in their videos, we cut them together, we posted it to YouTube, and then it went viral. And the first virtual choir, I think, now has 3.5 million hits or something. And then it went out to the singing community, and people from all over started writing in and saying, how can I be a part of this? I want to do this. I want to sing with you. So then we started on virtual choir too. Then the ball took off without us doing anything.
How did that make you feel?
It was unreal. It's still unreal. It feels like I'm surfing, that I'm out in the ocean, and there's a wave coming in, and I'll try catching that wave. And then suddenly I realize the wave is so much bigger than I imagined, and then I'm just at the top of it, riding along. So, oh my God, there's this massive power that feels like it has nothing to do with me, that I'm just sort of riding along the top of it.
So literally, you're now riding a wave. How does it feel?
I don't know where it's going. We just tried at TED, we tried 30 voices in real time, singing with a 100-voice choir. So these were 30 people on Skype coming from all over the world, while I conducted a live choir on stage. And we pushed the technology as far as we could go.
Smiling, keep singing, and we're gonna make history here.
For Virtual Choir 4, which will come out in July, we're expecting probably 10,000 singers. We don't know this time around how big it will be. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but for me, as long as it is a force of good and positiveness and aspiration, then I'll keep riding the wave.
There are some cynical people who would say, he just wants to make the world sing. And the whole notion of you making the world sing, it is a bit cheesy to some who haven't seen the video. Do you want to really make a world sing?
Well, it's not my intention. It's not that I want, I don't feel like an evangelist. Everybody needs to come and sing, although I would love for as many people as possible to come try it, at least. I feel that singing, for me, and I've seen this in other people, it makes me more empathetic. It makes me softer and more compassionate, a better person. Just the act of breathing and singing together with other people. And that can't be a bad thing. That can only be a good thing. We know that singing has all kinds of health and physiological benefits. We know that it's good for young people, that it increases their ability to learn and to feel sympathy and empathy for others. So it's not that I want to get the world to sing, but why not? And also there's an illusion of hierarchy with a choir, in that you've got this group of people here and then a leader in front. And the way it appears is that this person in front is in charge, almost a tyrant, that they're leading these people. That hasn't been my experience either. The truth is, the force is coming from the people, and I just, in this case, happen to be the person standing in front, gently guiding it left or right.
U nastavku gledajte.
There's a beautiful story about a woman who sat with her mother in hospice, and her mother was just off screen, dying, and she held her mother's hand. Sorry, it's so moving to me.
What came out from the whole virtual choir experience are truly amazing human stories. One story that really stuck with me was the one about the blind man who wouldn't usually get a chance to stand in front of the conductor and take directions. And you gave him that chance.
Yeah, so first there's this man who is legally blind, unable to sing in a choir, and was able to get close enough to the screen to see my conductor track and to join the choir. There was a woman from Zululand in South Africa who had no internet access, and it took her 2 days to upload her video over a cell phone. There's a beautiful story about a woman who sat with her mother in hospice, and her mother was just off screen, dying, and she held her mother's hand. Sorry, it's so moving to me. She held her mother's hand while she made her video. So the video that she uploaded, just off screen, she's holding her dying mother's hand. There are so many stories like this, people just being so human and so real, and working very, very hard for no other reason than to be part of something larger than themselves. It's so beautiful, so poetic.
How powerful is that? Actually being able to visualize the impact your music has globally.
Yeah, it's incredibly powerful. It's very, very humbling. I don't understand it at all. I don't understand why it's popular. I really don't. When I'm composing, I try to be as honest. First of all, thank you all so much for agreeing to do this crazy ass thing. Shall we sing? Yeah. And direct as I possibly can, and emotionally present for it, and just try to make these perfect little snow globes. I rarely succeed, but that's what I'm trying to do. But then the response from people it's overwhelming. It's just strange to me. I don't understand it at all.
So March 1st was one of those days that you were definitely going to remember in the years to come. I guess quite hectic, quite exciting. Take us through.
This is at the TED conference in Long Beach, and it's to close the session. And until that moment, we didn't know that it would work.
30 seconds to go.
Hang in there, guys.
First, there must have been 50 technicians at least. There was a huge team from Skype. There were all of the people from TED. There were the assistant conductors from the live choir. Really, hundreds of people ultimately involved to make this single thing happen. And normally when I'm working with a regular choir or a regular orchestra, they're all in the room here with me, and I give the downbeat, and everybody makes music. There's a sense of familiarity. But in this case, I'm conducting a live choir, and then I look up where the camera is, knowing that all across the world, these people are sitting alone in their rooms waiting for my cue. And then I just give the cue and just hope. I think, okay, I really hope this works. electricity on stage, and you can feel, I could feel from the audience on my back and on my hair that they felt that there was this electricity. And it worked. It was just unbelievably powerful. I'm still pinching myself, frankly, that it really worked.
Hey gang, it's Eric here.
Hi!
Thank you so much.
I think maybe being in a choir may be the coolest thing for the first time ever.
It was unbelievable.
I've been amazed by the experience. It's exceeded my expectations.
I felt like I was part of something very special there.
How does it feel the moment the last note is sung?
Most of it feels like this. Thank God. You know, because it's a very odd thing, because being the composer, it's a very introverted job. You know, I'm alone and I'm very emotional, and I'm thinking about these very small details. Then when I'm conducting, it's this very extroverted experience. And then in a situation like that, I have to be very careful not to become emotional. The last thing everybody in front of me needs is for me to be emotional. What they really need for me to be is clear. And so I don't think I really enjoyed it until I got back to my hotel room, and I ordered a big bowl of ice cream. And I was just eating the ice cream, thinking, oh, that was amazing. But it was only then that I really felt it.
Grammys are essentially holy grail, if you like, of the music industry. So how did the rock star within you felt when you got Grammy for contemporary classical music?
I didn't feel it like that, but I felt it's totally surreal. First, the award is so much heavier than it looks. You know, they give it to you, my God, this thing is... And my wife, who was a soprano, had won a Grammy 4 years earlier. So we had this Grammy in the house. I'd been looking at her award, so I knew what the thing looked like. And then in a very surreal way, once I received the award and then I went backstage, there were all of these rock people back there. You know, they put all the categories together. So I'm seeing DJs and rock stars, and that was pretty exciting. It was just being around that was nice.
Any family pressure to win a Grammy?
I was so proud of my wife when she won. So proud. Frankly, I think she deserved it much more than I did, but it's nice now that the two of them sit next to each other. And our son, who is 7 years old, took them in for show and tell a couple of months ago. And that was sweet.
So is there any hope that some other younger family members might win a Grammy as well?
I want my son to do whatever he wants to do, whatever makes him happy. He definitely has some musical gifts. He's got a beautiful voice, and he reminds me very much of myself. He can play by ear and just sit at the piano. But if he doesn't want to be a musician, that's okay. Right now, he says that he wants to be a ninja and a race car driver. So if he can make a living doing that, I'm more than happy.
The music industry itself is really reshaping in front of our eyes the way we consume music, the way we download music, the way we discover music. So how does classical music fit in the whole industry?
A big part of classical music that no one ever really talks about is the attention to silence. Part of the way that classical music is constructed, not always, but a lot of times, and especially my music, are these musical gestures, and then just a moment of reflection, just silence, and then moving on, then silence. And I find, especially in our modern world, those moments of silence in music or just in the regular world, they're more and more difficult to find. You know, I have my iPhone, and it's always buzzing, and I'm always connected. There's always something in the cars and the television and the radio. And the beautiful thing about classical music is that it's taking traditions that are hundreds of years old, not just musical traditions, but human traditions, just to stop and to breathe and enjoy something beautiful or introspective. And so I feel now more than ever it's relevant.
Since the virtual choir made you that much more famous, how do you plan to use that platform?
Well, one of the things that I love is that on my Facebook page and on Twitter, there are a lot of very young people, 17 to 24, 25 years old. And it's not a mission of mine, but having the ability to get them excited about classical music and the arts in general. You know, not only will I post all kinds of things about classical music, but I'll also post about famous painters, about Picasso, about Miro. I'll post poetry, Walt Whitman or E.E. Cummings or Rudyard Kipling, and they respond to it. And I would like to think that they can find in it a little bit of a refuge there. And so with the platform that the Virtual Choir has granted me, I'd like to think that if nothing else, I can just turn a few young people on to the same things that I got turned on to at that age.
Pretty much all the musicians have this dream of creating a piece of music that will live forever. But is there any particular dream when it comes to a certain stage in the world, any stage, that you would absolutely love to come on?
I have this image in my mind of, I don't even know how it would happen, but of being in Madison Square Garden in New York. You know, every great rock act ever. Well, I guess the Beatles weren't there, but nearly every great rock act. And for some reason, I see myself with an electric guitar and a giant stack of Marshall amps behind me. I don't think it's ever going to happen, but that would be pretty thrilling. Also, I have this image in my mind, this might be more possible, of a real stadium, of a football stadium, 60, 80,000 people singing. You know, it happens all the time at rock concerts, but why couldn't it happen maybe with, you know, something a little bit, or maybe a combination, maybe some rock, some classical music, but just the sound of voices like they do in Estonia, where it's got all the energy and electricity of a rock concert, but maybe just a little bit classical.
So here's the thing. You've done literally everything that you could have done with the technology right now. So essentially, you're waiting for the technology to catch up. Do you have patience?
Well, the issue of getting them to sing in sync in real time is really difficult. We're still not there yet. I'd say we're 3 to 5 years off before we can actually make music. My dream is that, you know, we'll all have the iPhone 8 or something, and that however they work it out, I'll be able to stand in Grand Central Station in New York and conduct like this, and then 1,000 people just, you know, on their lunch break somewhere in the world, they're just singing along and enjoying it. Until that, we're just trying to push the technology every chance we can. With the Skype experiment at TED, we had about half a second of latency, which is just enough to make it, you can really feel it musically. With the Virtual Choir now, we're building a new website that can handle all of these singers coming in. And also we're going to be offering voice lessons online through Skype and through Google Hangouts, and technical help. So we're trying to push it as far as we can.
Being part of the score for Pirates of the Caribbean really pushed you towards the mainstream. So I'm guessing there has to be some more offers, some interesting ideas. How comfortable you are with actually going mainstream?
Well, the right film, if the right film were to come along, I had a blast doing Pirates of the Caribbean with Hans Zimmer. I had a blast doing that. And so if the right film were to come along, I would absolutely take it. There's a number of pop and rock artists that if they were to call me, I would drop everything to go work with them. Bjork and Peter Gabriel and Radiohead, groups like this, where just in a heartbeat I would go and collaborate with them. I don't know what it would be. Those might be a little more mainstream.
U nastavku gledajte.
What are we going to do with Depeche Mode?
Well, it's funny that you mention it.
What are we going to do with Depeche Mode?
Well, it's funny that you mention it. So I've just yesterday, finished an arrangement for my choir of Enjoy the Silence. their big hit. And so we'll take that on tour with us when we go to America. My dream is that somehow word gets to Depeche Mode, they like the arrangement, and they say, okay, let's try something together. I don't even know what that would be. It truly, if they said, we would like you to carry our suitcases, I would do it.
You do know that you sound like a fan right now, don't you?
Yeah, I become a huge fangirl when I think that there's a few artists like that. Depeche Mode is like that. If I were ever to meet Paul McCartney, I would have no words. I would probably just kneel down, and I don't know what I would say. What do you say to Paul McCartney? I think I would be more intimidated meeting Paul McCartney than I would Mozart. I don't know why, but it's just the Beatles, and they're so iconic in my mind.
There are some theories that in the future, all the music on all the platforms will be available for free. So the question is, how does that translate into artists' lives? You create the music, but how do you live out of it?
First, it used to be that the old model was that people would give live concerts in order to sell CDs, to sell T-shirts, but especially to drive the sales of the albums, of the music. Now, that's kind of completely reversed. Of course, there's still money being made from the sale of albums, but mostly albums are released to support the live shows so that people will then go see the live performance, which you can't replicate. And so I'm confident that there will always be a model for musicians and artists to be able to make a living. Whether or not in the future artists will be able to make millions and millions of dollars the way some rock stars do now, I don't know. But I think every musician I know, they're not in it for the money, you know?
You lived a very fortunate life. You have a nice family here in London. All the success coming your way. And some of the viewers watching this interview would think this guy has it really going on. But what would you say to those who watch and who maybe they're in late 20s, early 30s, or whatever their age, and think things are not working out for me?
The older I get, the more I see there are very few people who just act on what it is they love. They have the passion for it. You can hear it, and even when they talk about it, how much they love a thing. But then there are very few people who will just take that next step and just start it, just do it. But I feel that power is within everyone, just to take that first step. And I think a lot of that just has to do with, it's not selfishness, it's just a sense of, this is what I was made to do, whatever it is. I remember being at Juilliard, and on the first day of school, they gave this speech. You know, they said, okay, look to the student to your left, look to the student to your right. Now, you should know that in 5 years, only 1 out of 3 of you will even be in the music business. That this is even at Juilliard, this is the dropout rate. And I remember looking around and thinking, God, I feel so bad for these people who won't be in music. It never even occurred to me that they were talking about me. Do you know what I mean? And I feel that possibility is within anybody. You just have to take that first step. Just move towards the dream.
Eric, thank you so much for talking to us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Amazing questions.
Beth. Annabelle, where are you? Jake?